Going to be an exceptionally busy night. The two ships are nearby, but there is a distance between them, and I think it's going to be quite a logistic difficulty for us. Plus, there's going to be people are going to go from one environment to another with a very short period in between, and there may be effects that would have on the crew.
Discovery, what sort of things impress you about that particular location in the realms of paranormal?
I think for me it's history, and particularly one incident where it was trapped in the ice for 2 years. The emotions, if we go back to this recording idea, the intense emotions that the crew must have experienced being trapped so far away from home for such a long period of time. If emotions can be recorded by the environment, then there must be a set of circumstances there.
Two ships with two very different stories. So what would our medium David Wells make of RRS Discovery and HMS Frigate Unicorn?
One has clearly fallen from one of these masts. It's like it's slow, and then all of a sudden it's... The first thing that actually hit me was the smell of blood. I tell you what I can actually smell is a rotting piece of flesh. There's like a caretaker of the ship, like a custodian. One's a dark shape. There's an anger for me, and he's a stomper.
So he's shadow and light. He's shadow and light. It's really... Oh my God, what's right with us?
Today, Most Haunted are investigating a ship that steered its crew through icy waters to worldwide acclaim, and a frigate that saw its own austere account of wartime action. Both still stand here in Dundee, but are their former occupants still haunting these decks? So with medium David Wells ready to begin, it was time to explore the upper deck of the RRS Discovery.
There's a couple initially, I'm picking up on a couple astrals initially. One has clearly fallen from one of these masts.
Really?
It's a smash, because I can feel the impact on his body. I can feel that. It's almost like you feel that slow motion, and I can feel it's like it's slow, and then all of a sudden it's whoop, and I can feel the whap on the floor.
And who would that have happened to?
It's one of the crew, but I haven't got any names just yet, and I think it's from the middle.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? It's quite descriptive.
When would this have happened?
Early 1900s, okay. I would say. Okay. I think maybe rope wasn't attached, or... Do you know what I mean? Because you would take safety precautions.
It was an accident, yeah.
Yeah, it was an accident, but I think it's might even been his own fault. When you walk in here, the first thing that actually hit me was the smell of blood. They would have carried a surgeon, they must have done.
I presume so.
I guess they must have done. That's what it feels like.
Right.
It almost feels like that.
In this particular area?
Yeah.
That's weird.
I tell you what I can actually smell is... not mixed with blood is like a putrid smell. It's almost like a rotting piece of flesh. So if someone had an appendix out, you could imagine. I can only imagine the stench that must come off something like that. Yeah. It's that kind of horrible stench. You know.
But Richard, is this something that would have happened? Or?
Yeah, it's absolutely correct. This is the wardroom, the office where the officers were, but it was also doubled up as an operating theatre.
What about activity? What about haunting? Can you pick up on anybody in here?
Our friend from upstairs isn't here. He doesn't feel as if he's here. There is one character wandering around, and you're kind of loath to say, it's one of these jobs. I think it might be either Shackleton or Scott.
All right.
But those are names I kind of recognise from that genre. But if I was laying money on it, I would say it was Shackleton, only because I've got Scott still, just detached completely.
Okay. All right.
The names of Scott and Shackleton may now be ingrained in the public's knowledge, but based on David's sensory perceptions on the upper deck, could we ascertain the name of the crew member who had fallen to his death while serving on board this vessel?
The name I'm getting is Charles.
Uh-huh. Do you have a
Or
surname?
Charlie, actually, Charlie. 'Cause that's
Charlie?
much more comfortable.
Do you have a surname?
Charlie.
with him?
I think his name's Bonner.
Bonner?
Yeah.
Charles Bonner?
But I think it's Bonner. Yeah, Bonner.
Their obsession with polar expedition would eventually lead both Scott and Shackleton to a premature death. Yet this was a reminder that tragedy had stained the Discovery's decks before it had even reached the South Pole. But now it was time to take David just a mile along Dundee's quayside and onto the HMS Frigate Unicorn, a boat that was built to battle but became the victim of a change in tides.
I am aware of astrals. There are two that I'm aware of in the ship. One is very, very distant to me, and I'm having a bit of a problem getting a hold on it. One is one of these kind of interested in what you're doing, but not yet quite coming forward. And I think actually it goes far as to say there's a third one who goes a bit further back. There's like a caretaker of the ship, like a custodian, who seems to be looking after it. But he almost...
There you go, sorry.
What was that?
It's coming from the floor.
Was it tapping?
Yeah, 2.
Again, no it must be an accidental death of some sort. It's like he's fallen down. I mean, the whole place is like a death trap, really, isn't it? I suppose if you're not looking where you're going. Fallen down a ladder or a staircase or something.
Ask out if you can hear. Just ask them to do 3 loud taps now.
If you could hear us, could you maybe give us 3 loud taps just to let us know you're there? Yeah. You got them?
3. Can you give us a name with him? Or an initial?
The initial name is Charles. There's a Charles. I can't get the second name. But I'm kind of hoping that he'll stick with us because he has a huge love for the ship. And he's kind of, if you like, the voice for the ship. And I know this sounds like a madness to give inanimate objects personalities, but we do with boats, and we do with ships, and we do with cars and things. And it's almost like she has a personality of her own.
Okay.
You know.
So you mentioned 2 others. We've made contact with this Charles. You mentioned 2 others, and one of them's very distant. Are they coming forward anymore for you?
One's a dark shape. Now, when they come in as dark energies, it's usually in some way, shape or form. There's an anger for me. When I see them dark, there's anger, and he's a stomper. So he's a noisy one. So it's footsteps with this one, and perhaps even things getting chucked about.
Okay.
But he seems to be moving around the ship. There is another character who's he has a ponytail. He's fair-haired with a ponytail, a bit kind of Mutiny on the Bounty, you know, with a white shirt and the trousers. So he would have been in the Navy. People, from my experience, absolutely love the forces or can't wait to get out of it. There's not really grey areas. You know, there's no middle ground. And this is one of them that loved it and loved the whole Navy thing and loved this ship for what it represented. And even continuing forward, even aware of what's happening now. So it's not stopped. He's not stuck. He's aware of what's happening now. I would imagine that as with lots of old buildings, that it's hard to maintain a place like this.
But how old is he, this character?
Before when he died.
When he died.
Well, he's presenting in a midshipman's uniform. So I would say that he's presenting at he's in his 20s. He's quite fast. He's very fast. But I don't think he died then. I think he died, it could be as late as 60.
Wow.
But you know, he's come back.
And when would he have died? What time period?
I would think certainly around the 1900s, maybe mid-1900s. Obviously he would have progressed in his career, and I'm getting the name Walker, and that's just the only name I'm getting.
All right.
Sorry, we've just had quite a big temperature drop just behind David.
Oh,
I've stored the previous reading of 19.4.
Oh, it's gone down to 15.4.
And it's gone down just under 4 degrees.
Well, that's interesting, as you were talking.
In the area just behind David, it dropped down over about the 20-30 seconds of David talking.
I think